The world we live in today seems an undistinguishable blend of fantasy and reality. Everyone living their best life, everyone at 100% all of the time. Up until now, looking at the picture-perfect world of social media I've lived in, self-doubt and insecurity, believing that I wasn't enough to be able to achieve those ambitions of stepping on stage and proving my worth. Well, this year, that changes. Because this year, we'll be stage ready. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Samuel Richards, and this is the Stage Ready series, where I'm taking you through my very first contest prep in the life of an amateur bodybuilder, doing this for the first time and experiencing it with you all on this channel. So, this episode today is pretty much just a recap, really. We're going to talk about where I am up until now, where we left the off-season as well, because I kind of left that without explaining much more to you. And also a bit about, the plans for the prep, all the kind of nitty-gritties about that. And also, I wanted to touch on when you should compete, because I think that this is something that took me a very long time to decide I was ready for. And it's not always easy to understand, when you're in that perfect place to step on stage for the first time. So where did we leave the off-season? We finished up the test and EQ cycle, and to be honest, we finished about 212 pounds, so I was quite happy with that. I wanted to be above 210 solidly, and I achieved it. Yes, the body fat was taken quite far, but realistically, a lot of that was just bloat from the diet. And when I pulled back to a cruise and when we stopped sort of aggressively trying to gain weight, the physique shaped up quite well after that. A great cycle in general, great process in the off season, and obviously, as you can see, there was a lot of fluff there, but I think that given lockdown had happened and everything, there was still a decent enough level of lean tissue gained. Nowhere near as much as if, gyms are open the whole time, but we made do what we had. And here is where we are now. So I'm down almost 20 pounds in total. Today I was at 193 pounds. We had a high day yesterday. And generally we are taking our time with it now. We stripped off quite a lot of weight very early. Still 20 weeks out, and that's from the Two Bros Pro Body Bio Classic. We'll be competing in Classic Physique, first timers. I'm a realist. No point really going for open. There are big guys in the UK who are going to be doing that to qualify for nationals. Brandon Harding's still a bloody UK amateur, let's face it. So, I'm being real. I'm just trying to get judges' feedback and just assess my level of competitiveness versus other first timers. That will be the main goal. Come back next year, the year after, after a lot of time adding some mass, where I could get closer to the 205 pound weight cap. I'll probably be about 180 now, maybe less, let's face it, maybe, somewhere between 170 and 180 on stage, which is well below the cap, but, at the end of the day, we've all got to start somewhere. The cuts, obviously, are looking great. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the shape, proportion, and I think that was obviously an early priority for me in my bodybuilding game, something that I sacrificed a lot of early strength and muscle gains for, which was a mistake, I'll be honest, but, we're really getting on that strength bandwagon now, really starting to shift some weight. Gyms will be reopening soon, and we can see what, the prep physique's going to look like as we introduce much better training, heavier training, and also anabolics into the process. In anticipation of those of you who are questioning why I'm competing now, you might think that I'm not ready, you might think that I was ready a year ago. So there will be a difference of opinion here, but let me just address it head on, right? My goal is to get a pro card. Why don't I wait until I've got the mass to step on stage and get a pro card in my first year? Well, that's a great approach, and it's a good way to get really, really quick attention to you. But personally, I don't see it as the smartest approach as somebody who wants to master this craft. Personally, I want to make sure that I'm with the right people around me. I want to make sure my coach is the right coach. And I'll get to that in a second, but I believe that I've made a good decision so far, but only time will tell. I also want to be able to get experience stuff like posing. I want to see how my body reacts during a prep. What happens when I do X thing and Y thing? What happens when we introduce or take out this? What happens when I do this or that? And, just get a gauge of how my body reacts generally to this very unique process. It's different for everyone. I do think presentation is an incredibly important part of this process, and it's something that, a few people have mastered in the sport, but not many people at that early stage really present their physique in the right way. This can completely change the way that you look and whether you win or lose a competition. For me, I'm consistently practicing posing, and I feel like the only way to be sure that I'm doing it right, presenting my physique in the right way, and can confidently stand there on stage when I have the physique that could potentially win a show, to be able to present it in the way that will win that show. So competing for a first time and getting experience before everything's on the line is ideal for me. Some of you may be thinking right now, well, his experience doesn't apply to me. When should I compete, and you're here to really gauge whether it's the right time for yourself. That's absolutely fine. And I can give some guidance as to how I view it, but obviously as somebody who hasn't competed thoroughly or doesn't have a vast past in this, in this sport side of bodybuilding, I'm not going to say that my word's gospel at all, and only you can be the judge. But that is the right answer. Only you can be the judge. I think that you should compete relatively when you believe that you have a chance in any class or division. But you need to make sure that that class and division is the one that you, at the end, have a passion for and would like to be in. I personally don't like the fact that people step into Classic, they get near the top, and then when they don't win because Chris Bumstead is so dominant, they go over to 212, and that kind of process. I believe that if you have a passion for the sport, you need to get experience in that division, and you need to get experience posing on stage, the process of that, see how your physique matches competitors, because across men's physique, classic, bodybuilding, they're all going to be different, and you also need to judge what your propensity for success is within that category. You might believe you have a classic physique, but you don't, and this is a big problem where people are going to the wrong categories just because they're smaller and they don't feel like they're ready for a big boys club. Well, guess what? There are small guys out there who win based on flow and symmetry, and if you're on the verge of classic and open, that can actually sway an open competition in a positive direction and a classic division in a negative one. So you need to make sure you're realistic and give it a go in the division that you genuinely have a passion for, and then reassess and be very objective with it. Now, I will also say there is no need to be able to reach nationals in your first year. Also, don't believe you will be competitive if you choose to go down that route anyway. Just go into that with a lot of humbleness and just be very, very much, an observer in that situation. Gauge your surroundings, gauge the competitors. Use that as a learning experience, not as something to try and fuel your ego, because if you try and run before you can walk, you're going to come away depressed, disheartened, and you might even have doubts about your ability to have success in this sport. And to me, it's always better to go in, as a realist than an optimist and be pleasantly surprised. That doesn't mean don't have confidence. You need to have confidence, but you need to have true confidence, and to be able to be really ready for that and confident going into it. You need to also realise and accept the possibility you're not going to do well. And that will be able to make you realise there's not really that much on the line. Go out there and just give it your best shot. I would, however, say that I do believe that you should have some combination of size and shape. I think that if you're trying to achieve a certain structure or shape and that's your goal, you should definitely make sure that the beginning building blocks of that are formed before you step on stage. Don't just do it when you've added size but you're not happy with how your physique flows. Try and at least get your proportions in check, and also make sure you have that adequate level of size that it shows through, because for a good time I had the shape I wanted and nowhere near the size, and even now I am undersized for where I want to be. And as I pack on size now onto my frame that I built in a way that I deem to be how I want my physique to look, it's rapidly changing every time that I add to it, or every time that I strip something away, and every more moment that passes I get closer to that ideal. As I say, only you can judge, but here's a brief sort of pros and cons list just so that you can make your mind up as to whether objectively speaking maybe it's a good idea. So what are the pros? In my eyes, the major pros are, as I said, experience. You get judges' feedback. So you might not see something as a weakness, but then you get an objective feedback from somebody who sees this daily and they go, actually, you really need to bring up this body part, or this is an issue, or, you really need to shrink your waist, whatever it might be. So then you're no longer deluding yourself. You have objective, constructive criticism. Also, you, as I said, get to learn your body on a prep. This will be individual. You get to feel out a coach, make sure they're right for you. These are all important things to have the right influences around you, to be able to have an objective knowledge of how your body reacts during preps, so that you can take that forward and incorporate that next time so you don't have to make that mistake again. And yeah, I believe that is just invaluable also. Now, there are some cons, I will be honest, and they really do need to be considered. One of them is that you are going to sacrifice time growing, and quite a considerable amount. For a first competition, I wouldn't say that you should allow any less than sort of 4 or 5 months. You need a long period of time because it usually takes longer than you think. That's the general consensus out there. And you're always better giving yourself more time and being able to sort of grow into a show or take a less aggressive approach to fat loss, which will then preserve whatever muscle you've got there. Because as a first timer, you're not going to have mass to spare and throw around. If Big Ramy over diets, he comes in looking perfect. If a 180 guy over diets, he comes in looking feeble and small. So it's very important to bear in mind that you will be sacrificing time growing, but you will also be in a primed position at the end of that process when you're dieted, on stage you've competed. That's the best possible time to then look to grow. And that's going to mean that your body is primed to go into an off season, to grow and to take a careful, calculated approach, and you should be able to respond really well. And the other two cons to mention, first of all, is money and health. You will sacrifice both. You will be unhealthy during this process if you compete enhanced. Even if you compete naturally, you will be unhealthy during this process. This isn't a healthy diet to get to a comfortable body fat percentage of 10-12%. This is taking your body to the brink of what it's capable of. This is what this sport is about. Your health will suffer temporarily and possibly in the long term. Money-wise, it is expensive. Go back and look at my last video, the true cost of contest prep. It breaks down all the costs and how much you should expect. And that's a really ambitious look. The amount of money that comes out of that is being really conservative. Realistically, it could be double that. So you really do need to be aware of those things. So overall, for me, I'm competing at the right time. I think you can judge that for yourself. I'm in a great place right now. As you can see, I feel like we've got enough time to achieve what we want to this year. We're being realistic and we're just going to give it a roll. I've been head down. I haven't really missed a beat. There's been the odd day where we couldn't get the steps in. We've made them up. There's been, the odd day where a few macros wrong, but does that matter when it's only for the sake of maybe 1 or 2 grams of something? No, of course it doesn't. Just staying diligent, getting the workouts in, progressing on everything, and really excited to share this journey with you because it's only going to get better, as in 2 weeks gyms reopen in the UK, and next month we're probably going to look to start our cycle, and I will get into that in the next video.